All right, here we go. Guys, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for your support on this podcast. The responses that we've been getting from our community have been absolutely incredible. And we're just really grateful to have this platform and, to be able to do this in hopes of helping. So today we have a really good friend of both Aaron and I. His name is Cody Hodges. And he's going to share a story with us from beginning to end, and it's pretty rough. Cody's been through a lot. He's a very strong guy, and just exudes grit. So I want to introduce Cody. How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, man.
Good.
Awesome. I just want to say thank you for being here today. So yeah, dude, we're just gonna get into your story, man. If there's anything you want to start with, whatever, but the floor is yours, my friend, and we'll just kind of pop in and ask you some questions here and there. So Start in the back and then kind of move forward, and I know the past is rough, but obviously we want to highlight the future too, or not the future, but the present.
Yeah.
And just kind of how good your life is these days.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of do it in layman's terms and make it a little quick, but I was born in Denver to 15, 16-year-old parents. Born in Denver because my mom had to have an emergency C-section, so should have been born in Loveland, but had to get sent down there for that. My mom ended up with 4 kids by 4 different men by the time she was 22 years old. Obviously, don't really remember a ton of early stuff, as most people don't as a young baby, I guess. But so I just remember most of my childhood. Mom eventually married my youngest sister's dad when I was, I think, around 7 or 8 years old. He kind of became my stepdad until I was about 14. But in between that time, there was a lot of basically zero structure. Earliest parts I can remember us living Loveland. We spent some time up in Estes Park, spent some time in Fort Collins, back up in Estes Park, moved to Texas, moved back to Estes Park, moved back to Texas. And this is all before even middle school. So just, there was never any stability in our lives at all. Mom, she never had a job. I didn't know then what I know now, but struggling mental health, bipolar, schizophrenic, depression, addicted to benzos, would eventually lead to, and we'll get there in a little bit, would lead to her chasing the Oxycontin Express down in Florida and getting addicted to opiates and stuff like that. So, so just pretty wild. Texas, I really enjoyed Texas down there. I kind of found who I was as a kid. Played everything: football, baseball, basketball. Football down there is
crazy
life.
Yeah, man.
I tell people, middle school football in Texas is bigger than college football is in Colorado. And that's a real thing.
What part of Texas were you guys in?
We live in a little town called Vernon.
Okay.
It's way, way north. It's literally like you could throw a rock into the Red River. Like, it's right on the border of Oklahoma and Texas. But kind of hit my stride there. But while we lived there, I kind of starting back earlier, kind of some traumatic stuff.
Let me ask you a question real quick. So obviously that's a pretty chaotic background. How old were you when you realized that it was fucked up?
I don't know, probably once we finally got to Oregon, after I'd moved to Oregon to start middle school.
Okay.
And just already being in, 8 towns, 3 states,
did you ever have
20 plus schools before you even hit middle school? I mean, that can, make kind of a dent on you a little bit, but didn't really recognize it for what it was then.
Yeah.
Just kind of,
I'm just curious if you ever had like a friend at school or whatever, and maybe you saw their life, and it was a little bit more put together. And if you ever wore that,
oh, dude, that was my entire life.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of get there as we go here, but that's just kind of from my early childhood, that was just kind of a huge basis of my life, was just compare and contrast and stuff like that. But so one of the times we lived down in Estes, one thing that had, was real young, but my sister, one of my youngest sister, she, we were down by the Thompson River, playing in the river and stuff like that. Walking over to my grandma's restaurant she worked at, and my sister actually fell in the river. She ended up going, I think, about a mile downstream and ended up passing away. The only thing I remember vividly from that was seeing her go in and then running over to the little, condos that were over there and just banging on doors until somebody answered and finally called. From there, it just kind of goes blank, but pretty traumatic, obviously.
Yeah. How old were you?
Thank the Lord. 6.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
And
she made it. She was clinically dead for, I think there's a debate on exactly, but for minutes.
Wow.
She was clinically dead, and then the gangster ass fireman that pulled her out ended up resuscitating her, bringing her back, and she ended up pulling through fully.
That's insane, man.
Yeah. So that obviously was kind of crazy. Another big impact when I was 9. We were in California the day after Christmas visiting my great grandpa, and I was up there with my grandparents and then my aunt and my uncle and my little young cousin. I think he was like under a year, 8 or 9 months old. And I walked over from my grandparents' camper into my aunt and uncle's camper to wake them up for breakfast and to get the day started and stuff. And ended up walking in and, finding my little cousin had passed away that night from SIDS. So just kind of having that visually drained in my head that young. I started counseling after that. Even though I shouldn't have at the time, for years and years and years, I carried a lot of guilt.
Were you even there? I mean, you said you had walked over from your grandma's,
Yeah, I'm the one that went in. He was laying with them in the bed, so I went to wake them up. And he was in there just pretty much blue. I just remember seeing him blue. That's just the image kind of that drained in my head.
Damn, you still see it?
Yeah, I do. And then now being a new dad, my son just turned 9 months. It's like I don't wake up for shit.
Yeah,
but
dude,
what wakes me up is the quiet.
Yeah.
So like he can be screaming and crying all night, and my poor wife's dealing with everything, who's been absolutely amazing. But I won't tend to wake up until things are just completely dead silent, and that's
kind of
that triggers my wake up. So
totally.
I'm looking on the camera, walking in, and putting my hand on his chest, make sure he's breathing. So
making sure he's not sleeping on his stomach.
Yeah,
dude, I do that still to this day. My son's 4. And last night I went in and he just passed out so hard, man.
Mhm.
And I was just like, what the hell? Like, and I sat there and just like held my hand on his chest for a minute.
Yeah. It's scary, dude. And then, so yeah, just like I said, that was the first kind of stint I had with counseling.
Yeah. How did that go?
The counseling?
Yeah. Do you feel like it was helpful?
From what I can remember, yeah. I remember I had a really good relationship with my counselor. He would come to baseball games and stuff like that. And
well, that's awesome. That's cool.
I definitely think I needed it. Like I said, there was no guilt to be had.
Right,
I had nothing
exactly.
to do with it. But as a kid, you just don't.
Well, you can't we can't really process trauma as adults very well.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that does to a kid's brain.
Yeah. So those two things kind of get drained in my head. So like I said, we just state to state, kind of all over. There was a stint where, my mom had kind of got fed up with me, where she sent me to live with my biological grandpa, who I didn't really know at all. It was kind of her way of saying, get out of my house. Your grandpa's going to go straighten you up, kind of thing. So I spent a couple weeks in Hawaii with him because he married a Polynesian lady, and then a couple weeks in Vacaville, California with him before he eventually had enough of my shit. And then I ended up coming back home, kind of thing. But
were you during all this time, like, were you pretty rebellious, or?
See, that's the thing. And no.
Do you think it was just an inconvenience for them?
I think I was an inconvenience for my mom because I would question a lot of shit.
Yeah.
I wasn't a great kid, but I wasn't breaking, that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 area. I wasn't, getting cops called.
See, and that's the kind of stuff I feel like is normal.
It is.
Like you're going to cause some ruckus and do some things like that. That's just what little boys do.
Yeah. But for her, it was a lot. Obviously dealing with what she was dealing with plus 3 other kids. And, So yeah, eventually, like I said, we ended up back in Texas again. Things were going okay. Still struggling. Trailer park trash. We lived in a trailer, 4 kids, 2 adults, 2 bedrooms. But we made the best of it. My stepdad was, he, if it wasn't for that guy, we would have been a lot worse off.
Yeah.
I carried a lot of hate, kind of early on in my teens towards him, because he would kind of leave, bail on the family sometimes, and then come back. Him and my mom would get into it, and so he was kind of in and out of our lives, kind of off and on for a while. But as I got older, not to say what he did was right, I kind of made amends with him, and I kind of understood kind of where.
Yeah, and that's because I was going to say, it sounds like your mom was pretty volatile.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that was an easy situation for him,
Yeah, and like I said, they got married when they were 22 or 23, and he's basically
a kid.
23 years old, taking on 3 kids
that aren't his, right?
Plus, having his own. I just couldn't even imagine. So, like I said, as I and then now knowing what I know, what my mom was dealing with mentally, and addiction, and all her mental ailments, just so kind of more of a bigger appreciation for kind of what he did for us, and stuff like that. But so yeah, things were going good in Texas. I don't really remember exactly what caused us to move, but again, that same biological grandpa owned a house in Oregon, and pretty much let us move up there for free. So I started, when do you start middle school? 6th grade?
Yeah, 6th grade.
5th or 6th grade up there. So we moved to Oregon.
Probably 12.
Yeah, I loved it. I'll never leave Colorado unless I have to. But if I ever do got to go somewhere, I mean, it would be Southern Oregon. It's so beautiful. And I'm a depressive kind of rainy state guy. So
I was gonna say, dude, I lived in San Francisco for like 8 months, and bro, it was bad. Like that was the first time I really experienced real depression.
Yeah, see, I loved it. I love the overcast rain. Like obviously we didn't, people live there their whole lives. It's a little different when you're there a long time, but for the short time I lived there, I loved it.
Yeah.
So we drove through, like, on our way down the 101 to the Redwoods. We kind of cut the corner
that's
through Oregon.
that's amazing.
I remember just seeing like hills, and it's like this is like a freaking rainforest,
dude. It's honestly like another planet almost.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we lived in a little town called Rogue River.
That's awesome.
If I would end up graduating there, I would have graduated with honestly like probably 40 kids.
Yeah,
like it was that small of a little town. But I liked it. But that was about the time. Obviously, I was getting a little older, starting to see the patterns of kind of not fully understanding, but kind of seeing just what was going on. So most of the time we were in Oregon, I would avoid home as much as possible. Whether it was be at friends' houses, I was playing tons of sports, always traveling every summer. Even earlier, before I moved to Oregon, I would come back down to Colorado and stay with my grandparents and see my dad and stuff like that. So, but once we got into Oregon, I just kind of really just, avoided home as much as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And that's when things really, really kind of kicked off. My stepdad eventually ended up leaving full time. And a couple incidents where my mom almost burnt the house down from, passing down on the couch with a cigarette in her hand, lit the couch on fire, like kind of shit you see on like movies and shit.
Dude, quick story on that. My uncle passed away. Just OD, something like that. I'm not really sure, heart attack, something, but we were unpacking his whole apartment, and he would pass out on his bed damn near every single night, man. The amount of mattress burns.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
And like behind the bed too.
Oh, yeah.
We're like looking at that, like he had to have an angel or something watching over him, because
is he still kicking?
No, after he passed, we moved all his stuff out. That.
Yeah.
It was just really sad to see people in that state that you just can't even.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's mind blowing.
So that's where I still, a lot of guilt for kind of leaving my siblings to deal with the brunt of that. As like I said, I was just gone as much as possible. I just couldn't be there for my mental sake. My mom was never physically abusive.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, it was more psychological and mental abuse.
Can you give us
abuse or neglect?
Both.
Can you give us an example of kind of like would she make you feel guilty for
that? That was her whole mantra, and it still continues to this day. I mean, I haven't talked to her in 6 or 7 years now, and
Jesus. crazy.
She stopped. Me and my sister would send her money, $20-$40 here and there, or whatever.
Yeah.
And this one time, like I just, it's like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like that's right when I had quit tradesman. And she just lost her shit. I remember the last thing my mom ever said to me, the last time I talked to her was, we were talking. I said something in the nature of, I don't want my kids to grow up how I grew up.
Yeah.
Something like that. And she just says, you'll never have kids. I hope you never have kids. All the shit that you put into your body with your drug abuse and your steroids, your body is incapable of producing children. Like that kind of shit. Like that was literally the last thing that my mom ever said to me. But
That's fucking crazy, dude.
But growing up, it was just like, even as we became adults, her literally in her mind, like she would literally tell us, like, you're my kids. It's your job to take care of your mom.
Yeah.
You need to let me live with you. You need to let me.
She's just trying to find that ticket.
You need to send me money. You need to do. And it's like, yes, there is a certain aspect to that in life when it comes down to that kind of thing. But it's not supposed to happen until you're older and you can't fend for yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's just all monetary. We were, me and Aaron used to work with a friend of ours, Andrew, whose wife was a counselor and a psychologist who used to work at a treatment rehabilitation program. And I had got my mom linked up to go start this program. You got a bed, mental health work, addiction work. I got this shit set up for you to go. Just wouldn't do it. No interest. The victim mentality that I'll talk about here in a little bit with her is just pure victimhood. She has reasons to be a victim. Some of us do, but that's her whole life. The few times she has come around, whether it be a family get together or whatever in the past, it always turns out the same. Always turns out with her getting into a fight with somebody and then just leaving because she can't A, let the past go, and B, she just can't not be a victim.
Yeah.
And that was just her whole life. So, I mean, the mental abuse as a kid was just a lot of tearing down. Most good parents want their kids to be successful, more successful than them.
Yeah.
She's just no interest with her.
Didn't think about that though, because successful kids end up leaving the house, and so it's this psychological warfare of how do I get these kids to do exactly what I say, and start let's start this young, because at the end of the day, man, a relationship, a parent, I think any relationship should build you up. You know what I mean? And that's I should do that for you and vice versa. And I mean, it's the only way to progress in life, and gosh, I just can't imagine having my fucking parents say that to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome that you came out of that because I picked up on two things, the whole woe is me attitude. And, you kind of have to flip that switch. It kind of goes back to alcoholism and sobriety and drug use. My life's never going to get better.
Yeah, totally, man.
I just can't stop drinking. And I get it. Obviously I get it.
Yeah.
But once you flip that switch, then you're nonstop.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing once that happens. And I think you kind of have to know that it's real to push past that. I mean, you push past it for sure.
Yeah.
And then the whole misery loves company thing too, that I also picked up on just now. There's some friends, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. That whole analogy. If you're all sitting around ripping on people or just talking shit on other people, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. So
obviously that's giving you this belief system, of your belief system at a young age is kind of shitty.
Yeah. No, for me, I was the first person on my grandma on my mom's side to graduate high school. So for me, that was my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
That was I remember when I graduated high school, I was all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
Life's good. I fucking made it. That was my mentality. I'm going to go get a $35,000 a year job and I'm going to be set for life. That was just kind of, and the idea, my mom and stepdad, they never owned a home, just shit like that. That was never, that was never, I was never going to be a homeowner. I was never going to have a good job. I was like,
Never gonna have kids.
yeah.
Look at you now, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, that was where I was mentally. Like none of that.
Well, it's what you were told.
None of that was in the cards for me. And I just knew it, college.
Yeah.
Fuck kidding me? I'm not going to college, which I never did, but I went to Red Rocks for 2 weeks. But
you know what though? I look back on that because I didn't go to college either, and I'm like, zero debt, bitches.
Yeah. Well, I'm married into $100,000.
Yeah, I did too.
Student loan debt now,
not much, but
my wife's making it worth it. So she's the breadwinner. Even
there you go.
Making money, but so yeah, just the idea of your normal home ownership. You're just, that was never even a thought.
Well, just like a normal American life, dude. Like white picket fence, like all that. Like that's something that I feel like maybe you don't dream of it, but it's an expectation, And I think that most kids are like, yeah, that's probably going to be me someday. But
yeah,
that's crazy, man. Like you didn't even have that. So where in this whole process do drugs get involved?
For me?
Yeah.
So I didn't smoke weed in high school. Remember early on in our senior year of high school, we had this friend and a chick that got like a bottle of Vicodin, and just being fucking stupid high school kids, like, let's go take some Vicodin and go back to class, like kind of shit. Yeah. That was like my first time like doing drugs. We ended up getting caught. A buddy of ours ended up fucking overdosing in class from the Vicodin. He lived, but I just remember him getting carried.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I remember him getting carried out in a stretcher through the cafeteria.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but is like Vicodin like the Fisher Price of drugs?
Not really. I would say of opiates, it's definitely a good one, but it's like Oxycontin's probably the top.
I don't even think Vicodin's an opiate. I could be wrong.
It is. I'm pretty sure it is. We'd have to fact check us on that one, because
between 5 of us, we swallowed a whole ton.
But it's a fucking pain. It's a fucking painkiller. Yeah. So it's literally, it gives you the exact same feeling that.
But yes, you're both right.
I'll say so, but he took a shit ton.
Not doing anything ever, Vicodin is going to mess you up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually got to a point in my addiction, we'll get there down the line, but like where I could have popped 6 Vicodin and it would have not done shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you guys are both right in a way.
Yeah.
So like I said, between like 5 or 6 of us, we all swallowed a whole bottle of Vicodin.
Dude, that's crazy.
So we all got a little sick, of course. We had that incident with our buddy that ended up actually ODing. He lived, got carried out on a stretcher through the cafeteria. We all got in trouble, got suspended for a couple of days. The chick whose name was actually on the bottle ended up, I think, getting in a little bit of legal trouble. But back then, if you're under 18, you can hardly get in trouble for anything. But
maybe give you a ticket or something, do some community service.
Yeah, the poor girl ended up getting the blunt of it. So that was my first experience with like drugs.
Yeah. What did you think? Like, because obviously this progresses into a full-blown addiction. Like, what was that like? Obviously you liked it.
I didn't.
No?
It was awful. And that was kind of always my thing too, is just seeing my mom once before I left Oregon. So kind of jump back just a little bit here. So the summer before my freshman year of high school, I came down for my annual Colorado trip to hang out with, my grandparents and my dad and stuff. And at that point, my dad had got married and gotten his shit together, and I was living kind of a stable life. And I was at the age where I could finally pretty much, emancipate
yourself. Yeah.
So I made that decision that summer, like, finally told my dad what was going on. He kind of knew, but not to the extent of the kind of lives that we were living, and just came down that summer and just never went back. That was probably the thing I feel the most guilty of in my entire life, other than, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, then when my littlest sister got put into foster care, was leaving my siblings with my mom, because at that time my stepdad had already left. So I basically just left my 3 younger siblings with my mom by themselves.
Yeah.
So just for years and years and years, even now, I still feel really, really guilty for leaving them, but I had to. Eventually it worked out. It was good that I did, because that's kind of started the domino effect My sister's dad also lived in Loveland. She eventually came back down and lived with him. Unfortunately, my little brother, his dad was in prison. So him and my youngest sister kind of moved around my mom lived on the streets, lived in shitty hotels, moved back to Colorado. They spent some time in Denver, homeless on the streets as well. And then my brother ended up eventually moving in with my grandma. And then my sister, unfortunately, ended up taking off with my mom to Florida so she could chase down, the doctors and, go prescription shopping. Yeah. Mom ended up getting in trouble there, getting arrested. Sister ends up getting taken away and getting put into foster care down there. Yeah.
So that's basically just like a 5-year sentence.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can't remember exactly how many years she was there, but her dad, my stepdad, my ex-stepdad, ended up getting his shit together eventually. And so got all his stuff done, got out of jail, got, proper custody of her. So she ended up moving back down here as well. So, but yeah, just leaving them, that made, tons of guilt as a young kid, just not knowing kind of what they were dealing with and going through, but also knowing what they were dealing with and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So then my mom started to get physical with the girls mostly, hitting my sisters, stuff like that. So definitely impounded the guilt that I had for kind of the stuff they were going through as well. But, so yeah, God, I can't remember where I was. Moved down here, moved in with my dad, went to high school. Yeah. Started at Thompson Valley my freshman year. And like I said, just kind of went through high school, tried sports, but I was just more interested in just partying, didn't do any drugs, but just your typical, like the way I tell people, I was just a dumbass jock that didn't play any sports. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like tried baseball, I got cut, tried football, I quit. I had no motivation to do anything.
Just wanted to get fucked up. And
yeah. Played baseball my senior year for a full season with a bunch of my buddies on a travel team. But other than that, I didn't really play sports because I would quit everything. So I was just more interested in getting the kegger filled up and going up the storm. And like, that was,
dude, those were some fun times though. Yeah. Crazy.
Great times.
I'll give you this, dude. Your guys' Zeke still owes me a tent.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah. Cause dude, I remember we were up on Storm Mountain one time and he got in a fight with somebody and I'm sleeping in my tent, dude. And all of a sudden the whole thing just comes down and fucking Zeke's head pops out. But yeah, dude, those were some wild parties.
Yeah, but that was it, man. Like, I did barely enough to scrape by, graduated with 2.9, graduated on time. And then, like I said, I'd hit my pinnacle. Like, I graduated high school. I was the first person on one side of the family to graduate. So that was like,
was it?
Fucking made it, dude. I'm good to go. Like, I figured it out. Did the little episode with the Vicodin, like I said. Got super sick. Didn't enjoy it. Like, and then I was thinking about it, especially since the first one I did, and I still to this day can't remember the first time I did oxy or opiates. I can't, I can't pin it down. But I'm sure I dabbled here and there. It was just kind of the party thing to do. And then I had a hernia surgery, I think when I was 20 or 21. I had my fourth hernia surgery, and the doctor gave me a prescription for like 15, we called them blue monsters. I think they were hydrocodone or something, like 15 milligram hydrocodone. And that was back in the day when you had the little paper scripts before they called everything in. And so I just I put a 0 or a 1 next to it, and I either made it like 150 or 115 instead of the 15 that, the script was written for. So turned it in, sitting out in the parking lot with my best friend, just fucking waiting. Like, we're either going to get fucking wild for the next
or you're going
next
to jail.
Week and we're going to make some money, or I'm going to jail, like one of the two. And sure as shit, fucking
they filled that,
texted me, filled it, walked in and walked out with 150, 115 fucking.
That's unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, little baby Oxycontins.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's insane that would even happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen still. Like, that's one of the blessings that I count every day is like, between that and then I ended up getting into, ironically enough, with some guy I met at an AA meeting after I'd already gone to rehab and relapsed, where we were, I went back to the doctor for something else, and I stole one of his prescription pads, and we were trying to get away with that. There's a point in time where me and some buddies were making our own prescription pads off of one that we had, and just like
creating it,
Xeroxing it and filling it out and going to all these places and doing it. And yeah, dude, like,
and they're filling this stuff.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
fucking
We didn't do
crazy
it
to
like
me.
all the time, but I remember there was 4 or 5 instances where, you know, we were getting them filled. And the last time I did it, I was with that kid, and I was sitting out in my Tahoe outside of Safeway. He went in to get the shit filled, and I'm just sitting there waiting for him to come out, and then just sheriffs and Loveland police just fucking all swarm and all go into the fucking store, arrest him, and I just take off. Like, just I'm out. So he ended up getting in trouble. Obviously, I've never talked to him again.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So you got away with that?
Yeah.
He obviously didn't rat you out.
He did eventually. So ironically enough, he was a cellmate with my little brother some years later.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Really?
Yeah. Super
We
crazy.
need to write a fucking movie.
But so he ends up getting out, and this is like 2 or 3 years later, and I'm still addicted. And I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but he gets out, calls me. He's like, "Hey, dude," like 3 years later, like, "Dude, you owe me money." I'm like, what? And then, you know, we start talking. He's like, "I got this, come get this, and we'll work things out." I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So I'm driving over off of like First Street over by, God, what's the name of that little, like over behind Walmart off of First. I don't remember. Is it Madison?
Madison and Boise area.
There's that preschool with that little playground around the fence over there.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And I'm driving over to his place, his address he gave me, and I missed the turn. And I look down the street, and I see 2 sheriffs sitting like 3 blocks down the street. So I'm like, all right, this is weird. So I stop at that playground. All the pills and cash I had in my pocket, I bury them in the sand in the playground underneath the slide so I can remember where they were at. Get in my car and drive off, and then go around the block. Sure as shit, I get pulled over. Fucking boom, right there, pulled over, and search me, do all the shit. I got nothing on me, like, so they had nothing at all. So got away again. Like, they had nothing on me, I had nothing in my car.
Till this podcast comes out.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm kidding.
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations. They got nothing on me, so, you know, whatever. So I, assuming, you know, he was talking and things like that, and was trying to, you know, inform, whatever. So yeah, got away with that one again. So I just have all these instances in my life where, you know, now being a man of faith, I don't know, I want to say it was God looking after me, but, you know, somebody was watching over me.
Dude, tell me about it. I mean, how many times, I think, crashed 2 or 3 cars, got pulled over twice. One time Blue Point 049. The other time the cops just didn't have a breathalyzer. Yeah. You guys ever know Talon Brim?
Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I got super excited about that. I love that kid. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He went to Mountain Dew.
Yeah, he was when I lived with him, he was not doing great. But anyway, Talon was sitting with me shotgun on the time that I drove back from old Chicago when I was all
when you
wasted.
wrecked it, yeah.
And I was telling him, I was like, "Alright, here's my debit card, here's my PIN number. Like, this is it. I'm going to jail for sure." And it was like the school resource officer, and he knew him. And then another cop showed up, and neither of them had breathalyzers. So I'm just saying, it's wild to think about, of all the shit that we got away with.
Dude,
why?
And the one thing I got in trouble for, so when I was in my early 20s, I got a job driving freight trucks for an HVAC company, and we had gas cards that they would give us, right? So for 2 or 3 years, I was illegally using the gas card to fill up my own car, fill up my girlfriend's car. If somebody had a pill or something I wanted, I'd be like, "Hey, dude, I'll throw fucking $80 in your gas tank for fucking Oxy," right? So I was doing that. So I was illegally using the card. I should have gotten in trouble. But there were other people at the company that were also using the card so eventually 2 years goes by, and all these thousands of dollars are getting racked up on this gas card. So one day, I'd already quit. No, they gotten fired, and then I already started a new job, and then I just get a call from a private investigator one day about the gas card. They went and did an investigation, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, like I was honest with him. I was like, yeah, completely honest, trying to be accountable. I fucked up. I was using the gas card incorrectly. So long story short, all the other people lawyered up, lied, all this shit. So because of my honesty, I ended up taking the heat for
All of it.
all of the money that was spent
Jesus
on the cars,
Christ.
which ended up being a felony. So went through all the court proceedings, all that stuff. Couldn't afford a lawyer, used the
Public defender.
So long story short, I got a deferred 5-year felony case. Heavy probation for 5 years, drug tests, the whole shit, whatever. If you fuck up, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
If you do good, your felony gets erased and you can go on with your life, kind of thing. So I was doing really good. I don't know how on earth I just, for whatever reason, stars aligned where I was never either popping hot or I would never get a drug test.
So, but you're still using the whole time, right?
Yeah, I'd stop smoking pot because obviously weed can stay in your system for however long, but Oxycontin, Coke, you can kind of time it to where like you can get lucky or get close to where,
Think about that, dude.
I know,
Just
it's crazy,
that was
bro.
that was my life. Like
I know.
it was
Just constantly living on the fringe, dude.
yeah. Well, not only that, but planning out when I was going to be able to use,
Yeah.
hoping I got my UA on Friday so I could, as soon as I was done peeing in the cup on Friday, typically we wouldn't get called on the weekends. So get all fucked up Friday and then,
Recover Saturday.
yeah,
Sunday.
recover Saturday and Sunday kind of thing. So that was kind of it. But yeah, escaped that. And then like no joke, 2 weeks before my final court case to get rid of my felony, completed 5 years, was going to be done. I got arrested in King Soopers up on 29th Street for stealing like $39 worth of shit. I had like some Gatorade, a pack of Gillette razors.
That shit's expensive.
I was
They
gonna
are
say.
expensive, dude. They're locked up now.
Yeah.
But
Because of you.
thank God they would have. I wish
Away
they
from
would have
all
been
of us,
locked
bro.
up. But so no shit. Got arrested in handcuffs at a King Soopers for $39 worth of shit. The fucking resource officer was a fucking douchebag, as most of them are, but he's just doing his job, whatever. Get put in handcuffs, get walked out of King Soopers, arrested, taken in. I'm just like, fuck, dude. 2 weeks. I do this shit for 5 years, which don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I was a model person for the 5 years. I just kept getting lucky, but it's like, fuck, I'm going to fucking prison, dude, because I needed a Gatorade and I needed to shave my face and I didn't have any money. So just super stressed out, like getting all my shit in line. Like I'm going to prison. Like one of the things in the judicial system, like that you don't fuck around with, it's theft of like a company. Like, what do they call it?
Embezzlement
And shit like that. Like you go to prison for that.
Yeah.
Like more than most shit. So like,
Is that from Office Space? It's not that white collar
yeah,
prison. It's the whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
I
remember.
don't remember
I've
the quote,
yeah, I
but
can't
I just remember that pound your ass prison or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I'm going to go to like a prison because I had a felony for embezzlement, was technically the charge or whatever. So I'm like getting all my shit, whatever. And so I have 2 weeks later, I go to my court case to finalize my deferment on my felony. And like I said, I had said bye to everybody, got all my shit fared. My grandma drives me to the deal, and my public defender's like, just have to see what happens, dude. I don't know. So I get called up, and judge is like, yeah, Mr. Hodges, I seen you did all your stuff. You complied, blah, blah, blah. Everything looks good. Here's what you got to do to get rid of your felony, fill out all the paperwork, all that kind of stuff. And your case is closed. And I'm just like,
free to go.
looking at my grandma, looking at my public defender, like, what the fuck just happened, dude? So we leave, and he's like, my public defender's like, I don't know, man. I have no idea what's going on. So another couple weeks goes by, and still just stressing.
Because you have to go back to court for the ticket?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So he calls me a couple weeks later, and he's like, dude, it's like, you are one of the luckiest people I've ever dealt with in my life. He said, you got arrested right before a holiday for your King Soopers theft. That officer that wrote the paperwork or some shit, like, went on vacation, didn't process the paperwork till he got back. And before the paperwork got processed through the court system, the judge had already closed your case on your deferred felony sentence. So
it was off your record.
Not off my record, but he had already stamped that I had completed my deferred felony sentence.
Wow.
So yeah, he's like, well, I mean, you're not going to prison, but you know, we got court next week because, you know, whatever. So I ended up paying King Supers like $150 and take a couple of theft classes or some shit. And I'm probably not going to be allowed back. I'm not allowed back in King Supers up there ever again. But that's where I shop every day because that's where I live now. So
quick question. In that theft class, did you have to write how much you stole or go up there and write down what you did on the board? Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure it's consistent.
Yeah. $39.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I bet.
Did you ever hear my story about that?
No.
In 5th grade, I got arrested for stealing a caramello.
Oh, you had to actually go do that?
Yeah. Well, we got like handcuffed and thrown in the back of a cop car and everything.
Oh my God.
And so in the petty theft class, you know, high schoolers, you know, tires and stereos and whatever. And I walk up 5th grade, 69-cent caramello. That was the worst part.
Dude.
I don't remember anything else. The fines,
yeah,
anything.
everybody,
I remember
like,
that.
In today's economy, that would have been a felony.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just another example of just luck. Just
yeah. Dude, I was going to ask you too, in all of this, like, did that, I mean, you obviously got in trouble, but not so much so, like, you should have gotten in a lot more trouble. Do you think that had an impact on your mindset?
No.
No.
Not
like
yet.
you don't think that it was like, oh my gosh, I keep
made
getting
it worse.
That's what I'm asking. Like, do you think that it was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting away with all this shit?
I kept getting
like,
away with everything.
Yeah.
So it made it worse.
Yeah.
So
kind of set you farther into the hole.
Yeah. And then once I started to get deeper and into that kind of stuff, I, you know, again, I never got in trouble. So I was invincible. So it led to by and large, you know, getting fronted large quantities of, you know, prescriptions and then selling them, and then, you know, weed, getting QPs and half pounds at a time and getting it fronted to you and selling those and kind of thing. So yeah, no, it really didn't. It just made it worse.
How long did you do all that?
I didn't sell for very long because it scared me. Like it was just, that's one of the things where like I knew like it just scared the shit out of me.
Yeah,
so,
dude, one of those things where I was sitting around. Yeah, dude, we should
that
sell
was
because it would get free eighth.
It's so funny that you say that too, because we had the opportunity to get in to the drug game in Fort Collins, and I was the one that was like, no, dude, like, hey, that's a line I just can't cross.
Yeah, it was small time stuff. I was, you know, never this big fucking thing. And then, you know, my grandma had gone through some back surgeries and stuff right when I'd gotten out of high school. So, and she used to be an addict as well. So she wouldn't take her prescriptions. So she had these fucking things called Opanas.
I remember those.
And they were, I could be wrong, but I think it's hydromorphone. So it's basically opiates and morphine. And I was the only one that could get those like in town. So I would do those and sell those. And it was like the hot new fucking, you know, my nickname was Panty Claus because I had fucking Opanas all the time.
Oh man.
Like I remember we'd snort them and they taste like ramen noodles. Like it was just disgusting, but
that's crazy.
So yeah, just again, I didn't sell for very long. I just, one of those things that actually did scare me. You know, so, but yeah, so just started, you know, diving deeper and deeper. And, where the first time I'd actually noticed myself hit rock bottom. And I think I found more. I did coke, but I wasn't an upper guy. I didn't like drinking too much. I know some people see drinking as a downer. Some people see it as an upper. I hated coke, but it was just the party drug. Everybody did it. But my life was just such chaos, like just constant chaos from the time I could remember until that moment that I'd like to just do my downer, just chill.
Yeah.
You know, so
kind of just quiet all the noise and
yeah, exactly. So, just heavy into that for a couple years. And then, you know, I hit my rock bottom, the one and only time I ever injected, heroin. A guy did it for me, at my buddy's house. It was actually during one of my birthday parties. I just remember basically just getting tied off. And then next thing I remember just waking up at another friend's house across town, on his couch, and just with just absolutely no fucking clue what had just gone on. So I remember kind of getting my bearings, coming to, realizing what I did, and called my grandma to come pick me up, and just telling her, like, my grandma knew there was, I was in some trouble, but I don't think she knew how deep
Yeah.
it was. And my grandma's basically, both of my grandmas are basically, my mom's, like my best friends. Like those two women are the pillars of my entire life, or both of my grandmothers. And obviously, my sister, my younger, she's been an absolute pillar. And then now my wife, but my grandmother are just my angels, my saving grace. But so called my grandma and was like, this is what I did. This is where I'm at. Like, it's time to go to fucking rehab. Like, I need to go to rehab because if I get addicted to heroin, I'm fucking done. Like, because it was awesome.
It was, yeah.
Like,
That's like,
I hate to laugh, but like,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
How would you describe it?
Like getting a warm hug from Jesus. Like it was just pure bliss and warmth and like a warm blanket. Like it was amazing.
that's crazy,
Yeah.
dude.
Really.
That's so fucked up because that's what probably people chase forever and
Yeah,
ever
dude.
and ever.
It is. And you only get it from what I've heard. Like, again, opiates are opiates, but heroin compared to pills, there's a difference. But it's like, like from what I've heard from people that have done heroin a lot, injecting heroin is like, you only get that for like the first, maybe the second time.
That's why they
And then
call
you're
it.
chasing it the entire
That's what I was
time.
going to say. That's where the phrase "chasing the dragon" came from.
Yeah.
It's like having a really good shot on your first round of golf, like getting an ace. And then
Yeah,
you just
dude.
come
Oh
out
my
somewhere
God.
trying
Okay.
to-
I saw this video the other day, dude. This is total sidetrack, but it was fucking hilarious. This guy's out on the golf course with his two buddies, and he's like, I don't know, man. I'm not really into golf. It's kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
And then he steps up to the ball and just hits a perfect, like 150-yard shot. And then he's like, I'm going to dedicate my entire life to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, did you see David Goggins get his hole in one?
Fucker.
Like never
No.
played golf in his life. and
That doesn't surprise me.
This shit is easy.
Yeah.
Just get a hole in one every time. Sorry, I totally derailed us there, but
No, that's where I got that from. That video.
okay, yeah, that's so funny. So you actually chose to go to rehab. You noticed that it was getting bad.
Yeah. Obviously, some other things had happened, but that was just kind of the catalyst. Like,
Yeah.
Because like if you're not like using needles, like you have kind of this moral ground. Like I'm not a drug addict. I'm just doing prescriptions.
Well, there's a stigma, right?
There is,
Yeah.
and so like I think me being like on the other side of finally injecting a drug, it was like kind of something clicked in my head. We're like, oh shit. Even though after I had done drugs for a couple of years up to that point, I finally realized like, oh fuck, I might be a drug addict.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I think up until that point, like you said, like you were the life of the party. I think that's why. I mean, it was, number one is why I was attracted to you in high school, and that group of friends, because you guys were just so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's easy to justify use in those situations.
Yeah. And that's, a lot of the problems that I had is like, I was always trying to be the cool guy because I wasn't cool at all. I thought I was cool, but I wasn't cool at all.
In your mind.
Yeah.
In your mind. Like this is your perspective of yourself.
Yeah. And, I had lied. I know we talked about this last time, but, and Aaron brought it up earlier during this one is like, there's a lot of shame. Like, so I had kind of this false moniker and this false narrative and story made up in my own head about where I was. Like I used to tell people that I was born in Texas all the time just because it was cool, shit like that. I'd meet new friends at all these new schools that I'd go in, and I'd lie about what my dad did. I'd lie about who my mom was. I'd just constant lies just to try to fit in at every new school we started. That as I got older, I just started to believe some of this shit. And like before we did the first podcast, I remember I was talking to my grandma about when my mom sent me away to live with my grandpa. And for some reason, for all these years, I'd had it in my head that I had lived with him for like months. And it turned out to only be like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. But like for some reason in my head, I had it like in my head that I had lived with him for,
a long
like
time.
6 months or something like that. She's like, no, you're only up there for like 3 or 4 weeks, 2 weeks in Hawaii and a couple weeks in California kind of thing. So just shit like that. I'd lied to myself, trying to lie to other people so much. So people didn't really know kind of who I was and kind of how we grew up and who my mom was, who my stepdad was. And,
Dude, and the crazy thing about that, you're telling these other people this stuff, but all the while you're also telling yourself this, and it's creating this belief system of who you are, right? Who your family is, even though they were this messed up kind of place. Like, so you're creating these false narratives, and then believing them.
Yeah.
Totally. That's wild.
It's classic being an addict. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
And it turned into pathological, and that didn't help my addiction. I don't, obviously, like, I was a huge, like, thief when I was a drug addict. I wasn't robbing people, but, I'd break into my grandma's house, and, she had these 4 or 5 big giant popcorn pins full of quarters that she had saved up from when she bartended for 30, 40 years. And I would go in there and scoop up a cup full of them, take them to Coinstar. And, you do that for 7, 8, 9 months, before you know it, and your dad finds out you're stealing from your grandma, you owe her fucking $900. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, breaking into my grandpa's house and stealing their remember those fucking books with the states when the state quarters came out?
Oh yeah, dude, totally.
Plug your quarters into the states on the map.
I do.
He had like 7 or 8 of those in the garage, just full of quarters. So I went in there and fucking emptied them all out and took them to just shit like that.
Well, and it's crazy too. Like, I've said this so many times on this podcast, but so alcohol is this. I still get these flashes, like I'm 6 months sober, just over 6 months, but did these like instances that I've forgotten, like come up, and I'll remember this thing, and it's just like, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? And obviously you weren't, but it's just, that line that you're unwilling to cross just keeps getting moved, and moved and moved and moved, until you hit rock bottom, and it's so common. Because I look back on some of the things, even the things that I said to my wife, and I'm just like, that is so not me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're not yourself.
No,
you're not,
and I think too, I want to highlight this for the listener. Like, that's how I was able to have grace on myself, and moving forward, like, that's how I am able to have grace on myself. Like, I know that I'm in a better place now, and now all that stuff happened, and there's no sense in dwelling on it. But at the same time, I don't know. There's got to be a way you've got to find a way to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but at times it's like this dichotomy, right? Because you don't deserve it, but you need it.
Yeah.
And so how do you give it to yourself, first of all, so that you can, let that pour out through your life? So it's just something that I'm kind of going through personally right now.
Yeah.
And then my wife will bring these moments up, and it's just like, I'll feel that guilt, which I think is good.
It's good.
To check, right? It's that boundary. Like, okay, I'm definitely not going back there again because this feels like shit.
Yeah.
But feeling that and then letting it be that.
Yeah.
And giving my wife a hug and being like, you know what? I'm really sorry that I put you guys through that, but this is the future, and really believing that. So I just want to highlight that for the listener, because I get a lot of questions around that. Like, how do you help somebody that's in active addiction? It's grace, man.
Yeah.
It's grace. You got to get down on your knees and go to where they are.
Yeah. Understanding.
Yeah. So you were talking about rehab, kind of chronological. So you checked yourself into rehab. Is this a 30-day program?
28-day.
Inpatient?
Inpatient, Estes Park, dorm rooms, the whole shit. I'm up there for 28 days. First almost full 2 weeks, I'm in the Shake Shack, withdrawing, nurses, stuff like that, eating fucking potato chips and drinking Pedialyte, puking, just going through it, man.
So what, and is it methadone that they give you guys for?
I think so.
Is it
No, I think at the time, they just started trying the Suboxone.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Okay.
But not for long. I think it was a couple days, and then you're pretty much.
And this is for the listener. This is a drug that kind of helps you come off of your.
Yeah, it triggers the same receptors that opiates do, or whatever. But, so yeah, I went up there, did 28 days. I liked it.
Yeah.
I went through it, did the program. There were some things I didn't like about it. We'll talk about that once we get to the recovery part. But
do you feel like you engaged in the program?
I did.
Yeah.
Very much did.
Yeah.
Good. Family would come up for the family weekends and counseling sessions, and some buddies came up for my graduation, super high on pills while I was graduating rehab.
Oh man.
I wasn't mad at them. It's just
I know, dude. That happened at my wedding.
They weren't addicts, right? So, I did the 28 days. I did take some stuff from it. One thing that was awesome about it was my grandpa came up, and during one of the family program weeks, he just decided, just to quit alcohol cold turkey. Like, just fucking quit. Like, he wasn't a huge, like, I know alcoholic's an alcoholic, but he wasn't like a blackout alcoholic. He was just, 2, 3, 4 beers after work every day.
For like 35 years.
Yeah, exactly. So that was pretty cool. Ended up graduating, going through all that stuff. I was, about 6 months, I stayed completely sober, nothing. And then just found myself back into the
same
loop
habits,
again. Yeah. Just,
same friends, same habits.
Hanging out. It's not even friends. It was just the acquaintances. I was still hanging out with the acquaintances, because a lot of my friends, all my best friends, we all got addicted together. And then we all eventually, not all of us, we lost some friends, but, we eventually got sober together.
Yeah.
So there was no, I got rid of the people that I needed to get rid of, and then kept the people that I knew that I could keep, kind of thing. But you definitely got to get rid of some people, as you both know. Ended up losing my best friend, a couple months after I'd eventually got sober. So, carried a lot of guilt there for having to.
That was an overdose, right?
Yeah. To leave him, like my, one of my best friends, it was like 3 or 4 of us that were like best friends. And, he ended up dying, being in a coma for over a week before he passed away. So definitely carried a lot of guilt with that, just for not being there for him. And, but that goes back to, you can't, we'll talk about this in a minute, I guess. But, ended up using again for, I don't know, probably a little under 2 years, 1.5 years, stuff like that. And, again, I can't equate it to anything at that point. I didn't have a job, bouncing couch to couch, buddy to buddy, a few stints living in my car, eventually lost my car, was riding my bicycle around town, going to pick up my drugs, like just, I had nothing,
You lived for it.
Yeah. That was basically my life. And then just, I don't know. Just, again, there was no big boom. I just was fucking done. I was done. And I just had that awakening, whatever it is that we get, that some people get, hopefully that's more people start to get. I just had it.
Yeah.
And just called my sister, and I didn't have anywhere to go. She's like, come over. And I literally just spent like 7, 8, 9 days just on her couch underneath a blanket, just fucking detoxing, going through it. She would leave me $5, $6 every morning to go get some food before she went to work, and just withdrew myself, went through it. I'm glad I did.
Do you think it was different? And I'm going to stick by what I've said in the past. I'm a huge proponent for the rehab process, and alcoholics, I definitely do not recommend getting sober by yourself.
No.
It's dangerous. It can kill you. Drugs are different, but do you think that there was a difference in doing it like medically and doing it on your own, like in your mind?
100%.
Yeah.
And physically.
Really?
And that's like early on when I finally got sober, like for the first couple months when there was that, that reward system where like, I've been clean for fucking 2 months. I can probably get away with a little snoot here.
Right.
I would just think back to that 10 days on my sister's couch.
Mm-hmm.
Every time when I would get close to wanting to use again, that was kind of my catalyst to how fucking miserable those 10 days were, just withdrawing and freezing and puking, and just like, that was kind of my cornerstone for why I never want to use drugs again. It's just remembering that. Yeah. So again, that's why I'm glad that I forced myself just to quit cold turkey. Because, again, I got some good stuff out of rehab. I actually made some really good friends. But yeah, just, I don't think if I wouldn't have quit just cold turkey, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't, but it was.
Well, knowing you too, like, I could see how you personally would attribute that to your, like, a win, and like, you're a man's man, dude. Like, that's a fucking hard thing to do. Yeah. Right. So that's like an extreme pat on the back. Like, you can wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
So, and just knowing you personally and your personality, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So ended up, getting clean. And I say clean, I don't say sober. I know I talked to you guys about this last time because I still have some beers. I still drink a White Claw.
Yep.
During a round of fucking golf, have a drink.
And I'll say this: so this is, what are we in, February right now? So we just watched the Super Bowl with you guys the other day, and I mean that you guys were drinking beer, but it wasn't like, I don't think I ever saw anybody take a shot, or anything like that. Nobody got crazy. Like, that's normal. That's using alcohol in the correct way.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to say again. Like, this podcast it's not to shame people, right? It's not to, like, if you can drink and you can do it responsibly, I'm actually jealous of that. I'm very grateful for my addiction today, but I had to go through, all of us had to go through some serious fucking shit to get where we are right now. And really the point of this is to avoid that, is to help people avoid that dark place that we had to go through, And so I just want to say, like, I feel like you guys have a very good balance with that stuff. And I never felt in that situation the desire to drink. It was fun. Yeah. Everybody's chatting, having a good time. And,
Yeah. And I feel like when I was in rehab, like the alcoholics and the benzo addicts that were going through it with me in the Shake Shack
it's brutal, man.
1,000 times worse than anything I was going through, just mentally and physically. Like, and like, I don't want to say I feel bad for you guys because you guys are crushing it, but just alcoholics in general, like,
it's rough,
dude. I'm so glad that I got the other addiction, I guess you could say. I mean, addiction's addiction, but I hate alcohol. Like, I get drunk maybe once a year. Like I said, I'll have my beer here and there. I'll have a Jack and Coke during poker or whatever. But like, I don't much coming from an addict to some alcoholics, like, absolute to utmost respect. Because for you guys, it's fucking everywhere. I can't just go to King Supers when I'm getting my kid
right, get some 40 millis,
pick up some Oxycontin. You guys go to the fucking grocery store to get your family substance, and there's a half a mile along where the fucking beer and wine now. It's like functions, like, it's tough, dude. So mad respect to you guys.
You learn the skills through all that, though. Like in our world, networking events are huge, and it's always happy hour. So you just order if you want to blend in, just having something in your hands is a lot easier, Like, I picked up a thing from you. I noticed you always had iced teas everywhere you went, like your own drink. And I did that in the beginning. Distill the green pure leaf unsweet tea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was something I stole from you.
Yeah. Sweet.
It just works.
Unsweet.
Yeah.
My man.
Yeah.
So, dude,
I get so much shit from Dave's family. Like, I'm a heathen because I have unsweet tea.
I used to live in Texas.
I honestly don't.
I hate sweet tea.
I don't understand unsweetened tea. I don't get it.
Sugar's so bad for you.
I understand that, but it tastes like
shit.
Fucking shit.
See, I'm the opposite. I love the taste of tea.
Yeah, that and black coffee.
I don't know. I've never been into it. So,
you have the metabolism of a 14-year-old girl. So, me and Aaron got to watch our calories.
That's true, dude. I just fucking drink gallons of coffee. That's my new addiction is caffeine.
Yeah.
Well, dude, your background is obviously extremely painful, but dude, I want to focus more on your life today.
Yeah.
And I don't want this podcast to be all doom and gloom. So talk about where you're at today, dude, and like how those decisions have impacted where you're at right now.
Yeah. So, obviously I'm married now. I had my first kid who just turned 9 months.
And he's so fucking cute, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. His eyes, like, I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. Beautiful kid.
Yeah.
Super grateful. But yeah, I ended up, me and my wife have been together for a total of, I don't know, she's probably going to chew my ass because I'm going to get this wrong, but I think about 8
time.
8 years. Yeah. Long
and
ass time.
And it's been amazing long ass time.
We got married in 2021. But yeah, just, things have been good. My sobriety, there's a bunch of stuff, that I had to work on. I met my wife obviously after I'd already been, clean for a while, some years, but, the early part of our relationship, I was still dealing with a lot of, guilt, mommy issues,
Yeah.
anger problems, trust issues, stuff like that, that she definitely obviously worked through and, helped me out with tremendously. That's why I said earlier, she's definitely a big pillar in my life.
Yeah.
To that note, real quick, dude, just to give you some more props. So, like, I remember, dude, some of the things that you fly off the handle for a tradesman.
Yeah.
And I would get so mad at you.
Yeah.
Why the fuck does that bother you so bad?
Yeah.
And how far you've come is just awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I still have my moments. Don't get me wrong.
We all do, but you're
yeah.
not getting pissed off about, okay, well, yeah, our income was driven on a guy not showing up. I get pissed off too. But at the same time, it's like,
yeah.
I mean,
we were in the same room together every day for a couple of years. So you've seen it.
Yeah. But you've come a long way, man. And you're, I mean, you weren't, I never disliked you by any means. Don't take it that way, but man, I like you way
it's hard
better
to be around.
now.
Yeah. And what's funny, dude? I was the same way.
Yeah.
Like, even I would say inactive addiction, like I was a fucking nightmare, dude. Like my emotions were just all over the place. So I was going to ask, do you still go like do therapy and talk to therapists today, or?
I don't.
Yeah. Was that a big part of the recovery process for you?
Yes. So, some people think kind of my path to recovery may be a little bit more taboo. And I know a lot of people in the program, like the program, disagree with kind of the thought process that I had to take in order to get myself where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked about last time for me, it's like the NA meetings I was doing pretty regularly for a while. My first go around, and I actually ended up meeting some of the people that, I don't know, it's not their fault, but we drug each other back down and into that cycle again.
Yeah.
I met those people at NA meetings. Don't get me wrong, I went to some great NA meetings, but you have your nice set up, organized NA meetings. You can go to a church, and then you have your ones at the halfway houses and those kind of
I was going to say
backdoor rooms.
The court ordered shit, dude, is so much different.
Yeah.
Because I remember I got a DUI when I was in my mid 20s, and I was court ordered 40 hours of like alcohol classes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd go out there, and man, dude, that's where I got busted for drugs too. And dude, you learn all kinds of fucking creative ways to get around the system.
Yeah.
In those court ordered situations.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's why I struggled too with rehab, I think, at the beginning when I did get sober.
Mm-hmm.
And I just turned the whole thing over to my brother. I was like, dude, I can't do this. Like, whatever. So, but it was so much different, and the people that were in that group with me, I think there was maybe one court ordered person in there. So it was so much different.
Yeah. Yeah. So the NA meetings again, and then once, I did go a few times after I'd finally did my cold turkey and stuff like that. But what I found is I didn't like the war stories.
Yeah.
I didn't like being brought back constantly.
Mm-hmm. You didn't find those relatable or, encouraging that I'm not the only one that's all fucked up?
Oh, I definitely did. They're all relatable.
Sure.
But for me, it was, I got to distance myself from that shit.
From the negativity.
I don't want to hear about it, and I don't want to talk about it, especially that early on. I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about recovery,
Yeah.
That, and then the addiction aspect, or the disease aspect.
Yeah.
Again, it is, but to me,
you struggled with that aspect.
I still struggle with it, and I get a lot of hate for this when I discuss.
Don't
it
hold
with
back, just go. You're fine.
But to me, I see addiction, especially going through, a little tiny bit of a cancer scare myself. My wife, my brother, my grandma, just everybody has family members that go through cancer.
Yeah.
Parkinson's, ALS. Like, to me, those are diseases. You don't choose to get those.
Yeah.
That's my mentality on it, right? Yeah. So, but the thing that I didn't like was going to NA and constantly seeing the same people come in, 30 days, relapse, 2 years, relapse, 2 days, relapse. Was everybody used that as a crutch?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
My disease got the best of me today. My disease did this. My disease did that.
Yeah.
And
there's no personal accountability.
So, dude, that right there. Yeah. That's what I went through. That's why I didn't think that AA worked for me. Because, like, yes, I love God and everything, but I was like, no, I can do this. I get it as selfish, and now, through my whole Christian faith.
So let me ask you guys a question, because I think we should spend a little bit of time on this. So if I put yourself in the perspective of somebody that's trying to recover, that's trying to give themselves grace, that's trying to forgive themselves, what do you say to that person?
Every single person that's gone from addiction to sobriety has had no path is the same.
Yeah.
None.
I agree.
There's not a single person that has had.
But if you had to give a general audience an answer to that question, which we get a lot, and I will say, I'm not playing devil's advocate. I disagree with you. I think it gave me a runway to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a balance there, right? Of like, because there has to be personal accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're talking about. With the lack of that, and dude, I am number one in the world. Like, if you have zero personal accountability in your life, you are not allowed to be in my life, period. Because I just won't put up with that shit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. And again, I think that's one of the biggest reasons that we started this, right? So you have to have that piece of it. And I think that with our podcast, that Aaron and I have that piece so much, like there is that, like, okay, I'm willing to admit, yeah, this was a mistake. I did this wrong. I did that wrong, and leave it there and then go try to find a way to fix the damage that it caused. Right. But there has to be a way for, and again, every road to recovery is different. I agree. Every mind is different. Every person is different. So I just was curious, like, how would you answer that question, with that belief system? And maybe you can't answer that right now, and maybe, I don't know. Do you understand where I'm coming from though?
Try everything.
Yeah.
Till you find what's going to work. Could be 3 NA meetings, AA meetings a day.
Yeah.
It could be
whatever,
continuing to go back to rehab even after you've been sober for years. Could just be counseling.
Right.
Could be going through old childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Could be linking up with, getting back into your family circle.
Working the program.
It could be
losing weight, changing your
gym.
lifestyle.
Well, and I'm talking about, and I guess maybe I'm talking about somebody who's in that active. Like, we're here, we want to help you. I'm trying to encourage you person is like, hey, because it starts with us, right? Like, we don't necessarily have to forgive ourselves right away, but we have to get to a point where we're willing to lay some shit down, and be like, hey, I've really fucked this up.
Dude, I've been asking that question for the past 3 or 4 episodes now. Yeah. How do we expedite that process?
Yeah.
It goes back to the power of a made up mind. You have to be ready.
I know there's some people that truly, truly, truly don't have support systems.
Agree. Yeah.
But most addicts have a tremendous support system that they're unwilling to utilize.
Or unaware of.
Because if you come clean, they might be pushed away, or that's your psychosis, for example.
Or they just don't mentally see it.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, you're good at hiding it.
So for me, my first step of recommendation before even rehab or whatever, reconnect with your family, let them know what's going on.
Because
those people know you more than anybody, right? So they're going to know. I don't want to say they're going to know, but they're not going
to be surprised.
Not only that, but they're going to be the people that are going to guide you down the path like you did with your brother.
Right. Yeah.
So they're going to know you more than anybody, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be willing to help guide you down the path that you might not think is going to work, but that they think or know is going to work for you.
Dude, I think that right there is going to end up being one of our most popular clips. That's so spot on, bro. Yeah.
And as a family, you have to embrace that. It might be the 3rd or 4th time it's happened, but you have to be there for that person.
Yeah.
Because tough love, right?
Right.
Get out of if you're going to be an advocate, get out of my house. That's loving someone, but not enabling it.
Right.
For example, and then 2, 3, 4 months, a year, 2 years later, that kid calls back.
Right.
That's when you jump in and you give them a lot of that grace. Listen to them and support that decision, because it's your decision. It's not like, okay, here's an intervention and you're going to rehab. That's it.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't work as well as, hey, I'm ready.
Well,
I'm weird in that aspect again, too. Again, I'm super weird, but I was at one point before I quit cold turkey after rehab, I got into a point where I I thought I was ready to do what I did the year after that,
okay.
where I quit cold turkey.
Yeah.
And my family did a fucking intervention on me, and it went fucking off the rails.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
I was gonna
I'm
say,
with
dude,
you
that's
100%.
got to be the
Absolutely
worst.
horrible.
Yeah, that's got to be the worst fucking idea on
And
planet Earth.
it dropped
Can
me
you turn
back
that
down.
camera real quick?
It, as soon as I left there, I went off the deep end again, and I didn't like. It was just like you see on TV. People reading you letters. There's some lady there, and I went fucking apeshit on that lady. Like, even like my grandma that I lived with knew me, and then my other grandma obviously does, but she's never seen me like that.
Yeah.
And like I didn't like some lady I'd never talked to, that I'd never met, coming into my family's house with my family, and like the thing that she kept saying that pissed me off enough to where I just finally left and literally told her to fuck off. She kept repeating, I know you. I know people like you. I know you. It's like, you don't fucking know me.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know anything about me. Like, I'm not going to sit here and listen to shit from you. And obviously, I'm sure she had some good points and she meant well, but I was in the full blown midst of my addiction. Like, I had some lady I've never met before in my life come in here and try to tell me how to change my life.
Right.
And it just did the exact opposite of what they meant it to do.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Because you called your sister, I need to crash on your couch and get detox. It was your idea. You did it.
Mm-hmm.
You turned it. Look, I need you. It was your brother and your wife, right? I need you to help me do this.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm strong enough to do this.
What's
I'm out.
the-
It's your idea. The intervention, I'm
See,
sure, works for
that's-
some people,
yeah.
but you're forcing your ideals on someone else. And
Well, that's what I was going
why
to say.
it can't be that way.
What's the common thread in all three of those situations? Right? Is we chose to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a choice that we made. You know, we put our foot down and was like, okay, this is enough. And then what did we do after that? We reached out for help.
Yeah, going back to what we were saying about the support system, is just to put it into percentages. Even if there's like 1% of you that you're like, I want to be done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
dude, I totally agree.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather, whoever
Dude, and
you
this
think
is-
is going to be your biggest support in that moment in your life,
And
that has got their shit together,
Mm-hmm.
call them.
I'll tell you
Yes,
this
reach
too.
out.
You
Yes,
do
sir.
I
that.
promise you,
Yeah.
they'll pick up the phone.
You
Yes,
lay
sir.
all that shit out too, and you're like, hey, this is exactly what I'm doing. It's this release for you. You know, it's all this weight that you've been carrying for years. For me, it was decades. You know, it was just like, okay, it's gone. Like everything's out in the open. And at that point, at least for me, it was the choice was obvious.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it was like I didn't have a choice. I had to go get sober, but that's my personality, right? Once it's out there and everybody sees it, now I'm accountable to that.
I remember getting that off for the first time, even while I was withdrawing and reaching out once I was ready. And like that, I don't want to compare it physically, but that feeling I had the first and only time I actually did heroin was kind of that same, like,
Yeah.
like everybody knows exactly what I'm dealing with right now. And it was like, you just fucking cry and you just melt and you're just at the mercy of whatever is going to come your direction as far as, you know, your sobriety path. So again, for anybody going through it, if there's even a small inkling, a small little percent in your brain where you feel like you want to be done or you're done, just in that moment, just reach out to whoever you feel like is closest to you at that point in your life. And if they're willing and if they're able, I promise you they're going to help and they're going to answer the phone.
Dude, and I made that call when I was 6 times the legal limit, you know, and it was, I didn't even remember. I was so blackout drunk.
Yeah.
You know, I woke up in the hospital and didn't know where I was. And
where it goes from there, like I said, everybody's got to try different stuff. So yeah. And you know, at that point, the other thing that really turned me off at that time in my life from rehab and NA and all that kind of stuff was the God stuff. You know, my whole life living and having friends through churches and being involved in that kind of stuff, I just ran into a lot of shit people that were involved in the church and money aspect of church, and all you see online is mega churches and fraud. And so I just, not only was I not a believer, I was, you know, I talk shit about people that believed. I would shout God down and just, it was all bullshit to me, you know, and wasn't up until 3 or 4 years ago that I really started doing some digging, doing some reading. I mean, Aaron and I have had some conversation about it the last few years. I know Aaron's been down his own path of, I don't want to say God, but spirituality.
Yeah, bro. And it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's been great, man.
So I want to talk about this too, because there's two giant differences here, right? What you're talking about is the people inside of Christianity, spirituality, religion, whatever.
Yeah.
Those are, and the wrong people say the wrong thing, and all of a sudden you've got this mentality of like, oh, God is this.
Yeah.
God hates me because I had a kid before marriage. Or
that can happen through any aspect.
It's
you
such
can run into the wrong doctor,
right?
And
It's
never want
such
to go back to the doctor.
bullshit, dude.
Officers,
And
realtors.
that's what I want to highlight. Like, spirituality to me is actually a personal relationship. Is like, and I feel like, dude, I'll be driving in my truck and I'm just like, I pray over this stuff before we come here, but it's not like, God, please do this for me and please do this for me. It's like, hey man, we're going into this. You know what's going on. You know where my heart is. Help me speak the words that you want to come out of my mouth.
Help me navigate.
Yes. Give me the direction that I need to go in. I'm going to make the steps. I'm going to do the effort. I am your vessel, whatever that looks like, but just be here with me. And dude, it's like me talking to you, and that's the difference, I think, in true Christianity. It's that walking, living, talking relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And then feeling those manifestations in your life. Dude, this podcast is a perfect example of all of that.
Yeah.
And it's just day in and day out. God is using this to affect people's lives, affect our lives, our children's lives, all of it.
You have a counselor.
Exactly. All the time.
24/7. You know what I mean?
And dude, if there's anybody listening to this that wants to sit down with me and talk about this in more depth, call me.
Yeah.
Because I am so on fire for this, dude. Like, I love my relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
It is so real to me.
And there was I know it's Theo Vaughn, but I don't know if you guys heard that clip of him talking.
Yes, about Jesus.
About Jesus.
Yes, I did.
Like, why would you want to deny that free love?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and it's not exactly quote for quote, but it's a beautiful line, dude.
Dude, and if we even try to emulate Jesus on earth, like what Jesus was on earth, if we even try and make an effort to walk in the shoes that he did, dude, our life is going to be a billion times better.
And before, when I would pray, it was
give me this and give me that.
Give me,
help me with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help the Broncos win.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
This monetary, physical crap,
Right.
And now it's, like I said, just
guide me.
Yeah.
Use me.
Point me to where you need me to be.
Yes.
That's really it.
Yep.
And
it's simple, dude.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, but religion is for people that are afraid of hell. Spirituality is for the people that have already been there.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I think David Bowie.
I've always been a God-fearing man, even though
me too.
I would shout him,
and there's nothing wrong with getting angry.
Yeah.
That
idea of hell as a kid, it's just like the 10 Commandments. As long as you don't do those, you're not going to hell before you really start kind of diving into what the word and the Bible actually mean. There's people that take it literally. There's people that take it spiritually. But to me, I've been reading, and it's like every story in the Bible is meant for you to interpret how you need to. Because you may read a story today, interpret it completely different than you're going to read that exact same story in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years down the line.
Right.
It's just to help you interpret that how you need to interpret it during that time in your life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally, man.
It's been different. I had my moment. Me and my son actually got baptized together last weekend.
Is that what that was?
Dude,
bro,
awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool, bro. I love that.
And I love, it's my wife's family church and my in-laws' family church. Super old school, brick and mortar, 100-year-old building, and that's what I like.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying anything against the mega churches. Everybody's got their own thing that they like to do, but I like the choir. I like the old school sermon.
That makes sense, dude. Totally.
Like stuff.
Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, all of that stuff is just our representation of what goes on in our heart.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all about where your heart is at, and if your heart's in the right place, God knows that. If it's in the wrong place, he knows that too.
Yeah. And I talked about this last time, and I'm not going to cry this time, I don't think, but, I had both times I decided to get sober during my addiction. I did have that epiphany, but I didn't, or that rock bottom, but I didn't have like that epiphany, that like, moment, like, totally. Okay, this is it, dude. Time to get your shit together. Yeah. But as far as Jesus, like I had one of those moments a couple years ago where, I was going through some shit. Brother and grandma just got diagnosed with cancer. I had actually just got diagnosed with some skin cancer, which ended up being fine, just a small little deal, whatever, but just more compounded stress. My wife's couple, we were planning our wedding. At that time, my wife was getting some tests done to make sure she didn't have cancer. She had to get a couple surgeries to get some bumps removed from her face and her neck, and just the wedding, just all this stuff was just compounding in my life. And I just broke down at work one day, just like I'd had it. Like, I don't want to say like suicide never popped into my head. Like it didn't go that far, but it was a point where I was just, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't handle what was being thrust upon me. Like I didn't know what to do. So I literally honestly just said, fuck it. Like, and just turned my radio down, parked my truck on one of my pads and just prayed, like for the first time, like really actually prayed for the first time ever. And it felt weird. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to pray. Like I had no idea how to pray. And I actually turned on some of my, at that time I was doing like meditating. So I turned on my meditation music and just prayed and felt better, got my breath, went back to work and driving through Greeley. And, do you guys remember that dude in Greeley that used to walk around, that homeless guy with the cross on his back?
Yeah. We're all white.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that guy was everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was driving through Greeley on my way to another job site, and this truck just cuts me off at a light on 34 and was like, motherfucker, blah, blah, blah. And then I just look in the back of the truck, and that guy's cross, big giant 12-foot cross, is just hanging like on the back of this truck, like zip tied in or whatever. And I just like,
is that moment where God told you I'm here,
dude. And this is right after you prayed.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was,
I got fucking goosebumps, man.
I could physically feel, I don't know. I felt just God and Jesus saying, you asked, you want it. I'm here, dude. Here I am. Like, and like, I had to pull the fuck over and just, I cried uncontrollably for like 10, 15 minutes, and just, it was weird. Like, it was like, here I am, dude. I'm here. Like,
and that's,
it was nuts.
You moved towards him and he moved towards you, and that's how it works, and I got chills. Like it's such a hard thing to put into words, like I've actually sat down multiple times and tried to write what that experience is like, and I get those emotions and those, I wouldn't even call it an emotion. It's like a rush through my body, and it's just like your entire body is like electrified, in a good, it's crazy. Like I can't explain it.
I know I said this last time and it sounds kind of effed up, but the same feeling I had the first and only time I ever did heroin was almost the same kind of feeling that I had when I had that moment with Jesus. Like it was just warmth, it was love, like in kind of a roundabout, screwed up, twisted way.
It's like, not twisted, man.
It was almost that exact same kind of feeling.
And like, dude, you don't need this.
Just release. Yeah. Just all that weight. It's just give it to me, Yeah. And it was crazy, man. That's as best as I can explain it, even though as weird as that is to say. But yeah, I just started doing reading, started reading the Bible, started reading study guides, and just kind of did it my own way for like a year and a half, and then eventually went back into the church. And yeah, it's been great, man. Like you said, if you're even a fraction of a small percent of what Jesus was, then you're doing pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah, if you're striving for that and you're truly trying, and like my next step in my process is going to be to be in more service to other people. That's kind of the next step I want to take in my spiritual process is I want to be in more service to people. You know what I mean? My father-in-law and my mother-in-law are two of the most in service human beings I've ever met in my life to the church, the community. They're not churchy, preachy people.
Yeah.
But when it comes to
what's real
service and helping people and doing things for other people, like I've never met two people in my life that give their time more, and I love it. It's beautiful, and that's one thing. That's why I want to get my son more acclimated to the community of church, because it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like
it's life-giving, you know, and there's obviously there's holes in everything that we do as people, because we're people and we're imperfect, you know, and so you have to always have that level of grace for people in your life and things like that, dude. Like there can be a lot of pain that comes out of churches and religion and spirituality, but those instances, those situations, that's not God, you know, that's not, and it took me a long time to learn that, you know, and that it's just not, you know, it's just people twisting their belief system or whatever, and, you know, control the whatever it is, you know, but I'll tell you, dude, like I love to hear you say that. I was looking up the gospel message because I just wanted to say, dude, like anybody can make this decision, you know, and God is a living God. And I think that the biggest reason that people have a problem with Jesus is because it requires something of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're constantly put outside of our comfort zone, constantly. And God will call you to those areas, you know, and if you say yes to them, they're scary as shit, you know, but he will always put us in those places that require faith, you know, and us personally with financial issues and things like that, you know, you just have to give that stuff up to God, because if we carry it around, you know, carry that stress, carry that, it steals that light. Right. It steals that light that we have, and that ability to look at the world and to give it 100%.
Yeah. And the foundation of my sobriety, the word that is the basis for my sobriety, and now it's becoming the basis for where I'm going with the church, is accountability.
Yes.
That, to me, that's the bedrock of my foundation.
Yep.
Is you have to be accountable for your past, your present, and your future. And with the church, you have to be accountable in the fact that, you know, there are certain things that are asked of you to do, but also you have to hold yourself up to a certain standard.
Yep.
And if you do screw up, whether it's in the eyes of the church or your wife or work or whatever, you have to be able to say, that was my fault. Yeah. I screwed up. Yeah. I need to do better. I'm going to hold myself accountable. Yeah. And that's just kind of another, you know, that's the basis of kind of my life moving forward, is that word.
Yeah.
Accountability. You have to learn from it, you know? So
it's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
Your story is absolutely wild. You know, I mean, talk about yin and yang, you know?
Yeah.
And just living in the darkness and then finding the light, dude. And how long have you been on the sober side of life?
Clean. I'm not sober, Mitch.
Sorry, clean, clean from your.
And again, I say
addiction.
that because it's an injustice to guys like you.
I appreciate that, and I know sober, our listeners appreciate that.
So May 1st, 2011 is my clean date.
Good for you, man.
Or no, yeah, 2011. Yeah, it's tattooed on my arm, but yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
However long, almost be 14 years in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to wrap up every podcast, we always ask people, you know, you obviously, dude, I think this episode there's so much that you can take from this. This was awesome. Like unbelievable, dude. Your wisdom is so evident, you know, and
call my wife and tell her that after the show.
Yeah, just never.
I'll just record this and just send it to her real quick.
Oh, dude, and just your grit, man. Like you just have such an amazing perspective on life, you know, after everything that you've been through. But we always ask people, like, if you had to leave like one final cap on all of it, what would you say? The nugget of wisdom.
Just make the call.
Yeah.
Make that call to whoever it is that's going to support your next step to recovery.
Yeah.
And just while you're going through it, just remember that everybody's path is going to be different. There's no blueprint for sobriety. Just make the call and create your own blueprint for what's going to work for you.
Yeah. That's solid, man. I totally agree.
Yeah.
One thing too, I know that we spend a lot of time talking about our addictions, and, it can be negative, it can come across like, oh, I feel like these guys are just talking about all the bad shit that happened in their life. So in an effort to put a little bit more of a positive spin on this, I want to start just sharing something positive that's going on in your life currently. It could be spiritual, could be this, but it's just something that, I don't know, man, something that's just really positive in your life. It could be whatever.
I mean, my son and my wife, like I said, last weekend I got baptized with my son, and it was beautiful.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, we did it at the family church. All of our, most of our family was there, and his godparents, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
It was just nice. I want to get him again. I'm not going to be one of those parents that push, religion on him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be one of those kind of parents. He'll figure it out once he gets older. But just to have him there to see dad and look back and say, my dad did this with me.
Yeah.
It was awesome, and it's going to be awesome. So yeah, just raising my son, dude, raising him to be, at one point when I got sober, I eventually got clean. I told myself, like, I broke the chain of addiction in my family, but I didn't. I added another kink into that chain. Even though I got clean, much like most of my other family members did, I still added another chink to that chain because I became an addict. Now my job is to truly make sure that my son completely breaks that chain.
Yeah.
So that's, obviously he's going to grow up, deal with his own stuff, but it's my job now to make sure he's the true break of that addiction chain that runs through both sides of my family.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. And I'm so proud of you, dude. And just so grateful to call you a friend.
Yeah. Proud of you both.
You're an amazing human being.
Yeah.
You got anything else to add?
No, man. That's just awesome.
I know.
What I mean?
Yeah, totally.
There's nothing else to say.
Yeah.
Well, man, I just want to say thank you for your vulnerability, and the willingness to come on and do this. So with that, we are going to wrap this up. I've been saying this at the end of all the podcasts. You guys, we would love to get questions, feedback, things like that. So obviously you can comment, subscribe on anything that we post on YouTube, Spotify, socials, all that good stuff. You can also email us at shattereddarkness5@gmail.com. What's our handle on what are all the handles, social media handles?
Just Shattered Darkness NoCo on Instagram, Shattered Darkness Podcast on YouTube, and then just Shattered Darkness.
Spotify.
And a reminder too, the ultimate goal of all of this is for us to have our 501c3 so that we can help out people in need. Like if you don't have the means to go to rehab, we want to have some of this money here so that we can give it to you, rides to meetings, whatever you need. So tell your friends to follow us. Subscribe helps out so much. And that's, ultimately why we did this. So jump back to episode 5 if you want some real clarity as to what we're trying to do here. You'll get a lot in that Tyler's story, Dave.
Yep. Awesome.
So
cool. Well, Cody, thank you so much. And with that, we'll wrap her up. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for your support, and we'll be back soon.
All right. God bless y'all.
Thank you.